Hello everyone. So today we'll be talking about Google Tag Manager, a part of it basically. Not everything will be covered in this session. Um, this is going to be a sequel basically. So we'll start with what Google Tag Manager is. Google Tag Manager is a free tool to manage the tags, and this tool is basically developed by Google itself. It has a paid version as well, which is Tag Manager 360. It has some extra features like the paid version, which can allow you to give access to somebody who will be working for you, but they cannot completely publish the tags, triggers, and variable and other stuffs before your approval. That's the important difference, I believe. There is nothing more important than that. So yeah, and there are some advantages of using Google Tag Manager over using directly the marketing tools or the analytical tools to track the events. Using Google Tag Manager, you can manage all the tags from a single point. Also, you don't have to completely rely on developer. You can do it yourself, and it is more convenient and faster than asking for help from developer. Also, Google Tag Manager works asynchronously, which means, uh, let's say you have 20 tags to track different events from a website. So once someone lands in a website, not all the tags will be loading at once. Rather, it will load one by one. As a result, your website will not slow down. It will work as it used to be. All right, these are benefits. Other benefits out there as well. So these are the main benefits, I would say. So what we will cover today is the interface here, what each term means here and what each does and how we have to deal with them. This bar, as you can see, this is a top navigation bar. Someone a few days back said how you can explain these things to your clients. So you would call it top navigation bar to your clients. Let's say someone asks where they should go, your client. You can say, you can go to the top navigation bar. On the left, you'd see the workspace, version, and admin. On the right of top navigation bar, there is this container ID, and this is the workspace changes, preview, and submit. I'll be explaining all these terms one by one. I'm just saying how you can explain these or how you can instruct the client to do things themselves while you are in live. So workspace basically is the place where you do all the work. For example, you are sitting on chair in a room, and that very room is your workspace where you do all the things. There might be some other stuff out there, a table, a laptop, a bed. There could be so many things. You can just relate them with tags, triggers, variables, and folders. So workspace is a place where you do your work, where you do all the work. Workspace can be more than one. In a free version, you could have 3 workspace. These are the workspace. The one we are now is the default workspace. You can create 2 more workspace besides this default workspace. Okay, this very button on the top right corner, clicking on which will allow you to create new workspace. Basically, when there are multiple departments in a company, let's say a sales department, a marketing department, a finance department, you could create multiple workspace for different department to create tags so that things stay organized. They don't clash with one another. That's why basically the workspace is being used. This is the workspace here. We have overview, tags, triggers, variables, folders, and everything you see here is under workspace. And version basically is every time we publish the container, it creates a version. if we give an example, let's say you have created a tag for a form submission, which has a trigger as well. So at the very first time, you have set the trigger, which is faulty, which consider a form submission, even if it fails or even if the fields are not filled with data. So later you thought, yeah, I have to make some changes to make it precise and accurate. So once you make changes and submit again, you may name it as version 2. So all these submission and changes will be recorded in here. All right, we'll be dive deeper like these terms later on, but not now. We'll just scratch on the surface level first, then we'll go or we'll dive deeper. All right. So from the admin section, we can decide who we would give access to, or the one we are giving access to, what they are capable to do, whether they can publish, or whether they can make changes to the tags, triggers, and variables, whether they will have only the read-only access. If I go one by one, at the top, this is the container name, which you can change or rename later on. And on the right corner, you see that plus button, which will allow you to create new container, which is directly connected to this container. All right. You can choose for what kind of data point you are basically creating this container. Web, iOS, Android, AMP, server. These are data point. By data point, I mean the source from which we basically will be collecting the data. All right. And container name, it will be named the way you can recall it later on. Container activity is all the activity that you have done, whether you have created, deleted, or made any changes to the container will be recorded under this container activity. User management, which I have mentioned earlier, you can give access or get access from this section. Using this very plus button, you can give access of your platform, and you can also decide what sort of access you would like to give to that very person. If you give publish option, publish access, it will automatically be giving all the access like approval access, edit, and read access as well. And if you don't give publish access, but one by one, you can do that as well. Let's say you have a marketing intern who joined at your company, but you don't want to give him publishing access because he might make mistake or made any changes without knowing. That's why you just want to give him read access, who can only just watch and understand things or learn things from here. So that's how you can manage the access to your container. And later on, if you think you don't want to give access or you want to revoke the access, that's what you can do from here. You can simply revoke the access. Let's say I want to remove access of link thumbnail. So I just remove. And from this install Google Tag Manager, you will get the container code, which is an identifier unique code, which we basically use to connect a website to or with Google Tag Manager. And once you do place the codes, either by using a plugin or directly placing the code to the website's backend, you can later on check if your website is connected to Google Tag Manager. If I try to show you whether my website is connected with this Google Tag Manager, let's say I'm going to show you now. This is my website URL. I'm going to place it here. Sometimes it shows wrong information. Let's check if it shows correct information. It's just loading. As you can see, it says your Google tag was not detected on your website. For the first time, it says that, but later on, if I try again, it might show my tag manager is connected with my website. Yeah, it's kind of faulty, but it sometimes works and shows the correct results. Right, we don't need to check it from here, as you already know. There's some extension for Google Chrome, which you can use to figure out whether my container is connected with the website or not. This import container and export container basically is you are exporting all the tags, triggers, and variables for future reference or for future use. Once you do that, you can later on use that without any hassle. Like you have to export this first. Like I have a lot of tags, triggers, and variables already set up in place. If I want, I can export any version. These are the version and this is the workspace. You can choose either one. You can either choose default workspace, which will export all the tags triggers if you want to. And you also can filter out which tags you want to export and which tag you don't want to. So once you check and uncheck things, and then you can see the preview of JSON, how it looks like basically. And you can download it from here, or you can press export, which will basically downloading the container. And later on, if you are in the Google Tag Manager and trying to track same CMS, which was basically tracked using Google Tag Manager or having the same CMS before. So you can simply import them and use them without any hassle, but it's not recommended, I would say. So later, you have to import the one you have just exported. Choose container file. The one we have just exported will be used to import. All right, will not be importing. Just showing it how you can do it. There are two options here, overwrite and merge. Let's say you have created 10 tags and you have a JSON file which have similar tags in it. So you don't want to overwrite them. Later you want to merge them, which you can do. By merge, it means you don't want to delete any, but you want to just update the tags you have. What it will do, it will just bring the updated version of it, but not be deleting any. All right, we'll be experimenting them in practice while we are practicing. All right, so in theory, it's hard to explain and hard to understand. Just canceling it, not doing it. External account links basically tells us whether you have connected your Google Tag Manager with any other Google's product, for example, Google Analytics 4. As you can see, this container has no external links. Besides, if you had any linkage with this Google Tag Manager, which you have done from Google Analytics 4, it would have been shown in here, but it's not, since we have not connected our Google Tag Manager with any of the Google's platform. And this approval queue is not available for free version, which we are using right now. It's only available for Tag Manager 360. It helps you basically, as I said earlier, you have a new employee which is doing all the works on behalf of you, but you don't trust him completely, basically not his skills. So before you allow him to publish every tag, triggers, and variables, you want to approve them after your review. That's how you can do it from here, but it's not available for the free version. And environment is basically you're setting the environment for different departments. It's more like a workspace. We don't have any thing to do with this one. And the container notification, using this, you can get the notification on publish of any changes of your container. We could bring the same example, like you have new employee who is doing all the work for you. So, and you are from your workspace, and you would like to get notified when the new employee is making any changes and publishing the container. That's how you can do it. if you just set the criteria like live environment only, and when do you want to get notified, you can choose it from here, right? And tag coverage is basically, you might have seen container health, which is critical and not taken, something you might have seen. These are the things like we'll be talking to you about whether you have all the pages connected to your Google Tag Manager, or you have some pages which are not connected to your Google Tag Manager. And there are different warning level, like critical, moderate, and other things as well. So you can find them in here. So if you go back to the workspace, on the top navigation bar and on the right side, we have this ID, which is a unique identifier ID for container. And this code we basically use to connect our website or the data point. By data point, I mean it could be website, it could be an application, anything. Using this code, we basically connect our data point with Google Tag Manager. And this one, the body part, is basically we don't use, but it used to be used back then while there was some browser which does not support JavaScript. So in third generation, there is no browser like this. All the browser, I believe, supports JavaScript. So we don't need to use this at all. And these same sort of codes we already have seen in admin section under install Google Tag Manager. So you can find the same code in two different places. And this workspace changes is basically tell you about how many changes you have made to the container which are not published yet. So by looking at this, you could say whether there is any changes that is not in effect with your live website, right? And if you want breakdown of these changes, which you can see in here under workspace changes, you could say how many tags were modified and how many new tags were added and how many you have deleted, which are in live but not submitted for the live tags, okay? And this preview, which we use basically to check whether our setup is working properly or not. Before we submit our container or before we submit all the changes for the live website, we could check everything using this preview. It's a simulated environment that we get once we click on this preview button, all right? By submitting the container, we basically applying all the changes for the live website. Now, this basically is the top navigation bar. So here we see the overview, which basically is a glimpse of whatever we do at the workspace, everything at a glance. This is the overview. From here, you can create tags. Like we can simply click on this, add new tag. It will take us to the template of creating new tag. All right. And description, which denotes the describing of this workspace out there. And workspace changes tells us about whether we have made any changes to any of the tags, triggers, variables, folders, or templates. And this now editing is basically talking about the all the changes that are not published yet, but we already have in place under tags, triggers, variables, folders, and every other section, okay? And this live version, which is in which version our GTM is. And when this version was modified or published, and by whom it was published. If you go just bottom of this workspace, we see activity history, which tells us everything we have created, changes, or published in this container. This basically is the overview, means everything at once we have done in this container. Tags. By tags, basically, we instruct this container to do certain things. If you ask questions like, what do you want to do? Tags answer that. We want to track the form submission. We want to track the button at a certain page, or we want to track the click of a certain emoji on the website. That's what the text does. So text basically talks about what we do or what they have to do. If you have the answer of a thing, like if you ask what you want to do, the tag answer that. It's a snippet of code that look for the changes in your website, and once it's done, it tracks and send it to certain marketing or analytic platform. All the things you see here are tags. By page view, we are instructing you'll be observing the website, whether any audience is landing to the website and build any pages. That's what the tag does. By trigger, we basically set the condition when this certain tag will be fired. Triggers basically talks about time. When exactly a certain tag will be fired or a certain activities will be carried out. There are some predefined template for triggers. Like under page view, there are 5 trigger type, clicks, and there are a lot of triggers out there. You can also use variable as a trigger or as a condition for the trigger. Variables is like a container where you can store the values, I mean the dynamic values. It will change depending on the action or depending on environment as well. There are 2 types of variable. One is built-in, that is already created by Google Tag Manager, and the other one is user-defined variable. By using this user-defined variable, you can choose multiple, I mean there are multiple templates contributed by the community leaders, which you can use to create the variable. We'll be explaining this while we are doing things in practice, okay? So if I explain everything now, it will be hard to just recall while we'll be working. So we don't want to spend time doing things that will not help us. Rather, we'll be explaining while we are using these templates. So once again, variable is a container. Consider this as a container where we'll be storing values that varies depending on situation, environment, depending on the action as well. We can create variable using multiple templates already provided by Google Tag Manager and the community of itself. The folder is basically used to organize tags, triggers, and variables. For example, we have, as you can see, we have 78 tags out there, where you have created tags for Google Ads, Google Analytics 4, Meta, and some other platforms as well. You can create some folders for each platform and then just categorize them or tag them or just include them under the folder so that it will stay organized and you can access them from this folder instead of going to the tags. It will save you time and help you keep yourself organized. Templates are basically all the Templates contributed by the community leaders. Uh, all the templates means template for creating tags, triggers, and variables as well. There is this concept like if you know how to create triggers, you don't need to know anything else. So we have to deal with triggers almost all the time. This is very important. We just need to know what it is and when it is used. And by variables, we can not only collect the value of metadata, we can also use this as a trigger or set the condition for certain tags as well. I think that's all about the overview: tags, triggers, variables, folders, and templates.